A global power play reshaping North American relations. Canada is undergoing a strategic energy transformation that could fundamentally alter the North American energy landscape. The completion of the Trans Mountain Expansion (TMX) project in early 2024 marks a watershed moment, enabling Canada to transport up to 890,000 barrels of oil daily directly to Pacific ports without transiting U.S. territory. This infrastructure development represents Canada's declaration of energy independence after decades of sending approximately 61% of its oil exports to the United States. By 2025, Canada plans to redirect between 300,000 and 500,000 barrels of oil daily to Asian markets, primarily China, Japan, and India, where buyers offer premium prices of $5 to $6 more per barrel than American refineries. The economic calculus is straightforward. Asian economies with growing energy demands present more lucrative opportunities than the traditional U.S. market. This shift wasn't born in isolation but emerged from evolving trade dynamics between the two North American neighbors. The cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline project by the U.S. administration dealt a significant blow to Canadian export plans. Subsequent tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and agricultural products further strained relations. These actions created a climate of uncertainty that pushed Canada to diversify its energy export destinations. The implications for U.S. energy markets are substantial. American refineries, particularly those in the Midwest and Gulf Coast specifically designed to process Canadian heavy crude, now operate at reduced capacity, down to 71% from 89%. These facilities cannot simply flip a switch to process different types of oil, resulting in production constraints that ripple through the supply chain. Energy analysts predict U.S. gasoline prices could rise to approximately $4 per gallon by 2025 as these supply constraints tighten the market. The effects extend beyond the pump, with rising energy costs contributing to inflation across manufacturing and transportation sectors. Michigan steel mills, for example, are reportedly paying 22% more for raw materials, costs that inevitably pass to consumers. Alaska faces uniquely severe consequences due to its geographic isolation from the continental United States. With no direct road connections to the lower 48 states, Alaska depends entirely on routes through Canadian territory for ground transportation of essential supplies. If Canada imposes new tolls on commercial trucks, potentially $5,000 per truckload, Alaska could see living costs spike by 15 to 20%. This vulnerability extends beyond roads. Approximately 80% of freight and passenger ships bound for Alaska sail through Canada's Inside Passage, a protected network of inland waterways. Additionally, about 60% of flights from the lower 48 to Alaska traverse Canadian airspace. If Ottawa restricts these transit rights or imposes additional fees, shipping costs could soar, potentially isolating Alaskan communities that depend on reliable supply chains. For remote Alaskan towns, the stakes are particularly high. Winter delays in shipping can quickly escalate from inconvenience to humanitarian crisis as food, fuel, and medicine supplies dwindle. With approximately 200,000 jobs tied to logistics, transportation, and support services throughout the state, the economic impact could be devastating if Canadian transit becomes more restrictive or expensive. The Canadian energy pivot extends beyond oil to critical minerals needed for manufacturing, particularly affecting the automotive sector. Canadian export restrictions on lithium, nickel, and aluminum have slowed production at major facilities including Tesla, Ford, and General Motors. This has contributed to price increases of $5,000 to $7,000 for electric vehicles, pushing average new car prices above $50,000 and used cars to approximately $32,000. Vehicle maintenance costs have also risen substantially, with basic services like oil changes increasing from $50 to over $100. While parts shortages create weeks or months of delays for repairs, the automotive supply chain disruption exemplifies how energy and resource policies interconnect with broader manufacturing ecosystems. While oil captures headlines, Canada and Qatar are simultaneously challenging U.S. dominance in natural gas markets. Qatar has increased production to 110 million tons yearly, while Canada's LNG project in British Columbia prepares to serve Asian and European buyers. This development follows U.S. tariffs imposed on Canadian gas in 2017, which incentivized Canada to seek alternative markets willing to pay premium prices. European countries, seeking to reduce dependence on Russian energy after geopolitical tensions, have signed long-term contracts with both nations. For American consumers, This competition could push domestic gas prices toward $6 per gallon while threatening approximately 40,000 U.S. energy sector jobs. Canadian energy producers have rapidly formed new strategic partnerships with Asian companies. Chinese refiner Rangsheng Petrochemical established operations in Calgary and signed supply agreements with major Canadian producers like Suncor. Long-term contracts committing 325,000 barrels daily for 15 years have been signed with Chinese and Indian companies. The Canadian government has supported this pivot with a $6.5 billion package. With $5 billion allocated to helping businesses reach global markets and $1 billion directed to agricultural sector support. This coordinated approach combines infrastructure development with market diversification strategies. For the United States, the transformation requires reconsidering trade policies that may have inadvertently accelerated Canada's pivot toward Asian markets. The tariffs imposed during previous administrations appear to have backfired, pushing a traditionally reliable ally to seek new partnerships and strengthen ties with competitors like China. The shift isn't without risks for Canada. Oil demand could decline as renewable energy continues to grow, particularly with the rise of electric vehicles and clean energy technologies. Canadian oil sands also face stricter environmental requirements, putting the country in a difficult position to meet international standards. However, Canada can leverage its position as a stable supplier with minimal geopolitical risks, particularly valuable in a world where energy security concerns are paramount. Asian partners seeking long-term energy contracts could provide Canada with greater price stability than the fluctuating U.S. market. What began as a pipeline expansion has evolved into a fundamental power shift in North American energy relations. Canada isn't just selling energy, it's selling influence, stability, and reliability in an increasingly uncertain global energy landscape. The country is transforming from a regional supplier into a global energy power with strategic leverage in international relations. For both nations, the changing energy relationship demands new approaches to ensure mutual prosperity and energy security. The interconnected nature of North American infrastructure, supply chains, and economies means that cooperative solutions will ultimately serve both countries better than escalating trade tensions. However, finding that cooperative path forward requires acknowledging that the traditional energy relationship has been permanently altered by Canada's strategic pivot to global markets.